Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope your day is going great. Mine's been really good, but we have some unfortunate news, guys. San Francisco Shock is making changes to their roster. More specifically, they have dropped 3 of their players. First, starting off with IDDQD, Nomy, and then lastly, Dhak. So this is definitely an interesting move from San Francisco Shock, showing that they really don't need these players on the roster, and that they probably want to free space up and look to get other players. Which is probably the right move to do, because they didn't use IDDQD the entire season until the very last game. Oh, and by the way, that match was against the Shanghai Dragons, so as you can see, they literally didn't use him the entire season, or did they need him at all? Now, the other 2 players, Nomy and Dhak, are a little bit more interesting because they actually did get some decent playtime during the regular season. Now, eventually they were replaced. For Nomy, we all kind of knew once Super was of age, he would probably be taken over full-time as the main tank. So it was kind of a ticking clock for him, and I think he expected this more or less. Maybe he didn't expect to get cut right away. He thought he could ride the bench a little bit longer, more than at least a couple stages, so kind of unfortunate for him, but he was given the chance to prove himself. And then for Dhak, he was replaced mid-season. They went out and picked up an entirely new player instead of somebody who was on their roster just waiting to come of age and play. So they went and got Moth from Toronto eSports, and he's been a pleasant surprise, much better than I thought he would be, and definitely much better than Dhak as well. So definitely some interesting moves coming out from the San Francisco Shock, and they tweeted this out on their Twitter to break the news. Today we say goodbye to 3 amazing players and friends, Nomy, Dhak, and IDDQD, who made history with us in this year's Overwatch League. We cannot thank them enough for everything they have done for us and wish them the best in their future endeavors. Hashtag forever family, and then they left this video behind. I'll go ahead and roll it and let you guys check it out.
Nomy, the main tank for the Shock.
Some orders being delivered down the line there by Daddy Dhak.
It's your boy coming in.
The headshot on Dia. IDDQD wrapping around the backside. He's found another one. Ultrix missing. Making 3 for IDDQD. Oh, he'll take 4.
Doc comes in, dislodging the Widowmaker. That's what you want to do on the Lucio.
And Nomy will use his primal range to keep this one going.
Oh, Nomy! Oh, you dirty man! It's filthy!
It was a pretty touching video, definitely a good send-off for these 3 players. I respect that San Francisco Shock shows they care about them, even though they have to let them go. That's esports though, this is what happens. Players are going to get kicked off their teams. Just wait, guys, this is only the beginning of it. And now IDDQD, Nomy, and Dhak are looking for new Overwatch League teams or potentially Overwatch Contenders teams, or even maybe another role, possibly becoming coaches, analysts, whatever it is. All these players will probably be looking for a job within Overwatch. So for the remainder of this video, we are going to start off with like options for these specific players, what they can do. Can they potentially find Overwatch League teams? Whatever it is, we'll talk about that. And then after, we're going to take a look at San Francisco Shock's remaining roster and now what they can possibly do with these open slots. But let's go ahead and jump into IDDQD first and what he can possibly do. Now IDDQD, he's a big streamer. If he doesn't find a job with an Overwatch League team for playing or whatever it is, he can always go back and stream and still make a decent living. His stream's definitely not as big as it was prior to the Overwatch League starting, but I'm sure he could start to rebuild it and get decent numbers. So he's good in that area, but if he wants to continue to play, I really don't know if there's any Overwatch League team that would give him an opportunity. He rode the bench the entire year, and let's be honest, guys, we all knew from the start that IDDQD was not going to play on this team, or that he probably wasn't even Overwatch League level caliber, which is crazy to say because he once was one of the best players in the entire game. So for those of you guys who haven't been playing or haven't been following the pro scene for very long, let me give you a history lesson about IDDQD. Sure, if you go way back in time, I'm talking like 2 years ago, when the game was still in open beta, IDDQD was one of the best players in the world. He played for Fnatic. He was a great McCree. He was absolutely insane. But then something happened and he didn't really want to play with Fnatic and Fnatic didn't want to play with him. They clearly had differences and most of it was chopped up to attitudes. And then IDDQD kind of sat on the market for a while. I'd say it was like 6-7 months. It was a decent amount of time, especially in early Overwatch where the game hadn't been around that long. He basically spent the time he was on Fnatic not on a team at all. At the time, he had a really good stream. He was definitely making a lot of money there, so he was kind of focused on that, wasn't worried about joining a team unless it was a really good offer. Well, eventually that really good offer did come, and it was from NRG eSports, a team that Sigil was on, and this team was once really good, but in recent times, they started to fall off, so they had to make a big move with their roster, and they did just that, trying to form a super team with star players at the time like Hardblue from Complexity, IDDQD from Fnatic, and then Sigil, who was already on NRG. And unfortunately, for multiple reasons, it seemed like this team just could not succeed no matter what. I feel like it was kind of that situation where you put too many superstars together that really don't know how to play around each other, it just completely collapsed. And that team just went downhill. It did not work at all, and pretty much every player on that team besides Sigil got a ton of flack, and they were just labeled as washed up players or streamers who aren't going to be pro anymore. And ever since that moment, everything has changed for IDDQD. Nobody's looked at him as that great player he once was. He's now just that washed up streamer. And I'm not even trying to be rude. I'm just saying what like the general consensus is of the community. Now that doesn't mean that he actually is washed up or couldn't be good. Maybe if he is given an opportunity, I'd say someone in Contenders will give IDDQD a shot. I think he definitely has a worthy track record of getting a trial for Contenders teams, and if he does get the chance to prove himself, maybe he will. But that's pretty much where I see IDDQD sitting right now. If I had to guess, he'll probably spend most of his time streaming and looking for an Overwatch League team, but I hope he tries to prove himself in Contenders, because that would be an epic story if he is able to. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on now and talk a little bit about Nomy. Now, Nomy's in a real interesting situation, and pretty much all season long he was in an interesting situation. So he joined this team along with Super, who was not 18 years old yet. So Nomy knew he was going to get the chance to start in the Overwatch League for at least a couple stages. Now, I think regardless of who you are, you're probably going to take an offer for an Overwatch League team, even if you're told, or even if people around you are saying, or even if the community is just saying, oh yeah, once Super's 18, Nomy's out of there, you still get the chance to prove yourself. And if you do end up proving yourself, then maybe that spot just stays yours. And that's probably what Nomy was thinking, and I would have definitely thought that as well. But unfortunately, he really didn't play all that great. I wouldn't say he played terribly. San Francisco Shock was obviously one of the worst teams in the first couple stages, but I think it was more so an issue where like they just didn't have any leadership or guidance when it came to coaching or in-game leadership, and it was very clear because their play was extremely sloppy. Unless somebody individually like Dante, Baby Bay were absolutely popping off, they really couldn't compete with the decent teams. And of course, once Super did come in and there was a jump in performance, Nomy kind of knew, all right, Super's going to be the starter here. But like I said earlier, he probably thought he'd be able to ride the bench a little longer than 2 stages. Who knows, but they did drop him, and now he's out there looking for a new team potentially. Unlike IDDQD though, Nomy actually does have some play in the Overwatch League. Expansion teams or other Overwatch League teams can go look and analyze those VODs and say, hey, maybe he is worth giving a shot. Oh, maybe he isn't. Well, I do think Nomy is at the level to where he could definitely join a Contenders team, even probably without trialing. I think he would just straight up get offers, just from having that raw experience. And also prior to the Overwatch League, he was part of Immortals, who was a decent team. And like I said, his performance wasn't like awful, it just wasn't good, and it was more so the team's fault than his, in my opinion. So for Nomy, I could definitely see him joining a Contenders team, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does end up trialing for some expansion teams. Now, I don't know if he'll make it. He possibly could, but with the competition for main tanks coming out of Korea, I don't know, it's tough. And then you also got to look at somebody like Tonic, who just had an amazing performance in the World Cup for Team Russia. So competition is going to be very strong for these expansion teams, and there's only going to be 6 of them. It's limited, so I 100% see Nomy joining an Overwatch Contenders team. As for the official league, it's questionable, and now let's go to move on and talk a little bit about Dhak. Now, Dhak's probably in the worst situation when it comes to competing, because at least for IDDQD, you could say, hey, I got a decent stream, I have a good brand, if you pick me up for your Contenders team, some people will follow and watch. So like, he does have an argument, but for Dhak, he doesn't really have a big following, and also he just played like crap in stage 1. Oh my gosh. I did just say that the San Francisco Shock clearly had some communication, coaching, and leadership issues, which are very valid. But alongside those, another huge problem was 100% Dhak, especially in the first stage. His Mercy was, oh god, it was bad. In my opinion, I think he was one of the worst Mercies in the league. He might have even been worse than freaking Altering or Freefill. Whoever was playing Mercy for Shanghai in the first stage, he was on that level of just not playing good. Constantly getting picked off, never in the right spot. And even when he was on Lucio, which was supposed to be what he is good at, he never had a good beat. Like, not one time did he drop his ult in a good position. And then he just got picked off 24/7 as well. So Dhak he had a bad first stage. The second one was bad too. It wasn't as bad as the first, but once they got Moth, there was just a massive jump in play. I don't know what Dhak is going to do. Maybe he can transition into a coaching or analyst spot, but it really is up in the air for him. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't think playing in Overwatch League is an option. There is a silver lining for Dhak though, and it's an opportunity that Nomy or IDDQD don't have, and that's competing in the World Cup. So ever since Neptuno dropped out for Spain, Dhak is now going to be the replacement in support. So he will get an opportunity in the Overwatch World Cup qualifier to compete and show off his skills. If he is able to pop off here and show that he is a good player, then I could potentially see him joining contenders teams. I still don't think Overwatch League is an option, but this is a golden opportunity for Dhak, and he really needs to capitalize on it. If he doesn't, then he might be in trouble, and I don't know if he'll play ever again. So that's it for these three players and what they might do in the future. I do wish the best for them. They do seem like great guys. It's just like I said earlier, it's esports, man. It moves fast, and if you can't keep up, you will eventually get left behind. And now let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about the San Francisco Shock roster. So prior to this change, they did have 12 players. Now after this change, they only have 9. Remaining, they have 2 supports, Sleepy and Moth, 4 DPS, Dante, Baby Bay, Sinatra, and Architect, 2 off-tanks, Choi Hobin and Nevix, and lastly, 1 main tank, Super. So that's their 9-man roster. They're clearly good on DPS. They don't need any more. They already have 4, and all 4 of those guys are pretty damn good, and they can cover any hero on the entire roster of Overwatch. As for off-tanks, they also don't need another one of those. Nevix and Choi Hobin are both really good. Depends on pretty much what you want to play and what style they're going to cover. I think it'll be a situation like the LA Gladiators where Bishu plays some maps and Void plays some maps. Then moving on to the supports, where I do think they will probably try to pick up somebody else. Yeah, Moth and Sleepy are both good, but obviously you want to have a backup. They'll maybe look to pick up some Koreans, since they do have a Korean off-tank and a Korean DPS player, who are both very, very good. Maybe a really strong Korean Zenyatta. And then moving on to main tank, Super is good, but it's the same situation with Moth and Sleepy. They're going to get a backup, and who knows, maybe it's going to be a really good Korean that'll take over the reins from Super, because that's obviously an option as well. But that's pretty much it for the San Francisco Shock and these changes, guys. Be sure to comment down below and just continue this discussion. What do you think about all 3 of these players? Where are they going to go in the future? Do they have a chance to join the league, contenders? Whatever it is, let me know down below. As well as the San Francisco Shock, what do you think they're going to do with these 3 extra slots? Could Super maybe be in danger? I don't know. Let me know down below what you guys think. If you guys are new around here, don't forget, drop a like on the video. I appreciate every single like. Let's try to get this to maybe 1,500, 2,000. I don't know. Drop a like on the video if you usually don't, guys. And lastly, do not forget, click the red subscription button if you guys want to stay updated on all Overwatch League news, updates, drama, pretty much everything. Whenever there's a roster change, guys, you're going to hear about it here on my channel as soon as possible with little to no delay. And that's pretty much the video, guys. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. I'll see you later. Peace.